you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, for 16 years, we bring you the most amazing shows, the amazing guests, the CEOs, the White House President's Advisors, the billionaires, the Pulitzer Prize winners, all the great journalists, all the great authors who come with you, their stories of life, their journeys, their novels, their lessons that they've learned over life, and all of it's about human nature. There's this thing called human nature, and last time I checked, we all have it, because if you don't, you're probably a snake, or you're probably a dog or something. But then you have dog nature. So that's a whole different podcast. For the show, your family, friends, and relatives, folks, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. And right now, people are going, wait, am I a human being? We should check. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Anyway, guys, we had an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking about her amazing insights. We're going to be talking about psychonutrition. She's a consultant in psychonutrition and master addiction specialist and founder of Turning Lee's Recovery, Life, and Wellness Coaching. We have Tricia Parido on the show, where she's a nationally recognized creator, speaker, and all that sort of great stuff. She has a program, an app called the Total Emotional Performance app. I got that wrong. Total Emotional Performance app. And with over a decade of experience coaching high-achieving professionals, she helps people ditch the emotional chaos, stop just coping, finally live with clarity, confidence, and emotional agility. So those of you who hate all that stuff and don't want to live that way in complete chaos and madness, keep doing what you're doing, I guess. But otherwise, listen to the show and check out her wares. Her real task style, powerful life story, and no fluff methods have made her a go-to expert for anyone ready to upgrade their mental game personally and professionally. Welcome to the show, Tricia. How are you?
Oh my goodness. I'm just super excited to be here with you today.
We're super excited to have you as well, and all the great stuff you're going to deliver to us and change our lives by the end of the show. Like, people are just going to walk out of the end of the show and be like, gosh darn it, I'm not going to take it anymore, and I'm going to live a better life. So, Tricia, I put a lot of pressure on you. I'm sorry about that. I kind of built that up a little. I got a little ahead of myself there. But
I'm sweating over here a little.
Yeah, you're like, hey, I just came on a podcast. What the hell? Give me your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
I have two sites, triciaparido.com and turningleavesrecovery.com. Mm-hmm. They're both connected to each other. So if you land on one, you can find the other and back and forth. They're both, getting a little facelift right now. But hey, don't mind the construction.
Boy. What are you doing for that facelift? I need one. So, Tricia, give us a 30,000 overview of what you do there.
A 30,000 overview. I don't know if I gave you like the super short version. Working with me is like working with an emotional intelligence trainer, meeting your mental wellness strategist. I don't pump people full of affirmations and feel good stuff. I believe that the only true thing that changes life is action. So if we're not problem aware, solution seeking, and moving into transformational focus, we're going to, continue to do the same things over and over again and expect a different result.
Wait, you don't get a different result if you do the same thing over and over again? What?
No.
Concept. Some people are trying really hard to prove that thing wrong, evidently, from what I've seen of some people.
You're 100% spot on.
They're like, damn it, I know it's a rule that doing the same thing over and over doesn't get the same result, but I'm going to try it and do an infinity. Yeah, I noticed that in my dating groups. They just keep doing the same mistake over and over again. You're like, it could be you. It could be something you're doing. And they're like, really? Nah.
No.
Self-accountability, what a thing. So why is emotional intelligence, would it be fair to say that emotional intelligence is kind of your whole focus and what you're doing in helping people there? And why is it important?
I mean, so emotional intelligence is what truly, gets things started. So if we don't have it, we can't put it into practice, which is that transitional space that I refer to is from going from being an emotionally intelligent being to someone who functions in a state of emotional agility. So, and so that's where we talk. That's what I mean by it has to be in action. So we can be emotionally intelligent and not live in a state of agility. We can say, oh, I know, right? So most people, they have the information, but what they don't have is that better application. So we sit in those self-help books, and so my least favorite phrase to hear from somebody is, I already know that. I have victories. I'm extremely resilient, yet they're sitting there completely derailed from everything that is coming at them in life. And it's you're not being agile.
So you need to be emotionally agile? Is maybe that a good assumption?
Yes.
Yeah. You got to be able to boogie board with those emotions, bob, weave, and dive, from all the bad emotions, or at least, how you react to them, I suppose. Is reaction one of the keys to, one of the factors in how you react to emotions that make you intelligent? Kind of went on a little journey there.
I like that you said that, because reacting is very knee-jerk. It's very impulsive. So what we want to in the essence of the work that I will sit with and help somebody cultivate is the ability to see something coming and not react, and actually formulate the response that is going to allow them to see themselves experiencing whatever that is the way that they desire, or receiving whatever's coming at them in a way that will serve them, so that they can be received in the way that they want to be perceived. Which I know sounds kind of convoluted, but it's, hey, how do I want to see myself experiencing living? I want to see myself as a kind of caring, insightful, interesting, polished, poised, whatever it is for you, pick an adjective. I want to see myself like that. So when somebody comes in and throws something at you, right, says something to you that catches you off guard, perhaps insults you, like you can see that, and it stays out there until you say, wait, what do I want to do with this? Right? Yeah. What's going to allow me to still come across the way that I want to be? And so instead of road rage, we move over a lane and wish the person well as they pass us by. Instead of brake checking the tailgater, you move over and you're like, wow, don't know what's happening in your life. It's none of my business. Let me give you a couple blessings.
It's emotional intelligence. I don't think we study and teach enough. I didn't learn what emotional intelligence even was till later in life, and why it was important. I studied Stoicism and other things, and those kind of teach you emotional regulations. Part of masculinity is Stoicism. It's the owner's manual for being a man, really, masculinity. And one of the things Stoicism talks about is that emotional intelligence and being able to be non-reactive emotionally, at least not in an uncontrollable way to your emotions. So as men, we tend to pick up things. We work in boxes, and we tend to pick up things, and we can look at them and go, I feel something. If my dog dies, I'm going to feel something about it, but I'm going to look at it and go, okay, this is a feeling. Why am I feeling that way? What's causing that? Do I need to address that? Is that an appropriate feeling? Do I need to feel this? We can look at it and go, I don't really need to feel anything about this. There's nothing that's going to serve me or contribute to the situation if I feel something. If someone comes at me and they're in a amplified emotional state as a man, we're born killers. It's in our genetics to be killers. So if you come at me that way, I could easily react that I see you as a approaching enemy that is danger to myself or my family or what I'm protecting as a man, and I'm going to emotionally react. But technically, as we have that emotional intelligence from Stoicism where we go, okay, we can control our feelings. Why? So what was I getting to? So that's kind of one of the things. I don't even flesh that idea out a little bit more, maybe. So I'm trying to build a idea or concept for people that are listening on what emotional intelligence is and the application of it.
To your point, what I was hearing in the words you were saying, which were very valid. There's this myth out there that as human beings we're supposed to get over things, and the fact of the matter is we're not designed to get over things. We're built in a fashion to move through them. Mm-hmm. So we're built to move through situations with clarity, through strategy, and in a state of emotional fitness. And so this is what I teach. So if we look at, emotional intelligence as a whole, it's exactly what you were saying, right? Like distress tolerance, emotion regulation, resilience.
Emotional regulation. There's the words I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's that ability to regulate, and so there's all kinds of things that you can bring in. The key is, and to go back to what I was kind of highlighting a bit ago, is we'll read a book on meditation, or we'll listen to a podcast on I don't know, box breathing, and we'll read a book on phrases or boundaries, and the thing is, unless you can put things together in a way that says, okay, this thing is happening right now, I'm going to do this, and this, and it's going to get me through. And at the end, I'm going to acknowledge myself and say, oh, that group of psychological skill sets, tools, and tactics served me in this type of a situation. I'm going to, try it again, and I'm going to keep improving upon it. The problem is most people, they just get hit upside the head. You get fired from a job, you weren't expecting it, you crumble, and then you go into this entire external locus of control, which is now my thoughts, feelings, emotions, and opinions are all being driven by something that's outside of me. Case in point, and I'll use something super easy, right? Because I work with a lot of people on their relationships with alcohol.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, that's, probably the primary. Alcohol and food, right? So emotional eating, emotional drinking are the two things that I work with people. It's what they come for initially, and then we do all the rest of the work to fix it. But so you go to work all week long, and all week long you're coping, right? You're just getting through, so you go to work, you come home, you're annoyed, you have a couple beers, right? To unwind. The end of the week, maybe you cut loose, you go out and you're partying it up with your friends, whatever it looks like. What you've done is you've given an emotional job to alcohol. So now you're reliant on something outside of you to bring you peace, joy, comfort, relief, value, validity, worthiness, whatever it is, right? Just like we need the thumbs up in social media. That's an external locus of control. We're now relying on all these people out there we don't know to tell us that we're worthy of some sort of social status or whatever. And really want those drives to come inward.
There you go. That's what a lot of people seem to be doing on social media. They're looking for validation and attention and feedback and stuff.
People literally say the words to me, that's where I get my worth.
From social media?
From external recognition.
Okay. Isn't that interesting? Do you find that's more predominant with women than men?
Yes.
Yeah. Why? That's one of the things that I've been asking myself about dating and the books. And I believe I kind of understand why women do that, because, they're designed to attract a mate. And so it seems like they look, if my assumptions are correct, that they look to that social media, that outward validation, the attention they can drive as to almost like status or value, as it were. Is that a correct assumption? Interesting.
Yeah. It's very interesting and also very sad at the same time, right? So if we don't feel attractive, and we've got to have people, we've got to have these big photo shoots, and it's something that, when I get on social media and I see other people, say in our own space, right? Entrepreneurs, and they got to have the big photo shoots, and they've got to have this image, and they've got to, this look about, everything. And instead of it coming from that internal space of just, this is me today, right? Whether I'm in my sweats or, I've got my hair in a ponytail or whatever, doesn't make, what's inside of me any less valuable. There's that. And believe me, I've lived a lot of life, and I didn't come to this space in my mid 50s by accident or by design. Even I've ended up here with the knowledge and the gifts that I give because I've had a really big, long life filled with all kinds of learning opportunity.
That's the great thing about making the mistakes and not having an owner's manual to life. It really would help whoever's out there that's supposed to design the owner's manual to life. I think we should start calling Chris Voss Show the owner's manual to life, because we've got 2,400 episodes of how to live your life better. We're kind of an owner's manual, I think, at this point. If you can pick and choose through it. The owner's manual to life. The Chris Voss Show, the owner's manual to life. I like that line. Now, you tell us about your journey. You mentioned you work with alcoholics and people that have food addiction, I believe, a little bit. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Tell us about your life experience or summation of it, and how you kind of went on this journey, how you learned these things you're teaching other people nowadays.
It's been such an amazing gift and wonderful ride. Without doing the whole story, because, growing up, I had a really great life with a lot of wonderful, beautiful things, but I also faced a lot of extreme traumas. At 4, I watched my dad get struck by lightning.
Really? Was that when you were young, as a child?
I was 4, yeah.
Wow.
And I endured, a lot of different things, from sexual assault to domestic violence to near-death experiences of my own, and a lot of loss. And through that, right, like our learned behaviors, what was being led to us, especially in the 70s, right? Like alcohol is pretty normal. So I learned to, I don't know. I remember getting in the car with, the parents taking us to go toilet papering, and they had a big, they brought the wine bottle with them.
Wait, your parents went toilet papering? I remember doing it when I was young as a teen, but I didn't know adults were doing that.
Yeah, no, I had some friends that parents, they were really cool. They would just load us up in the Volvo and, drive us around, and we'd go toilet papering, and they'd just kind of hang out together in the car and drink their wine. But, so I when my dad was killed, when I was 12, when we were on vacation, right? Like I was looking around at all the adults and there they were, right? Smiling and having conversation at the funeral. And they all had a beer in their hand and a cigarette, right? So what did I do? I picked up a 6-pack of beer and grabbed a pack of cigarettes and my cousin. And, we took off behind the tree and, there it was. But
did that end up being a crutch for you in dealing with your father's passing? And
it did through the trauma years. So alcohol, anorexia, they were big crutches for me. I also was an athlete, and staying thin was also a big push. And then, eating disorders also go right along with, sexual trauma and domestic violence. There were those seasons. But what happened to me that really created the transition wasn't anything at all trauma related, right? Like my husband and I have been together for 28 years, and life is wonderful. We have 5 children and almost six grandchildren now. But I developed a physiological addiction at later in life. And what happened was, my medical provider, knowing I was a low level, daily drinker, I, would have a couple beers in the evening, prescribed me Xanax for anxiety disorder.
Uh-oh.
And prescribed it over the course of 5 years. Anyway, so I developed a physiological addiction. But so to get back to what you asked, so I went to a detox, a medical detox, to do it safely, because alcohol and benzodiazepines, detoxing from both of those could kill you. So I went to a medical detox so that I could do it the right way. I went in 100% sober, clear-headed, and what I noticed when I was done with that standardized treatment program was that you learned a lot, but there wasn't anybody there to really tell you what to do when you got back. So anyway, I went to school and started studying the physiological effects of drugs and alcohol in your body. So insert my starting passion for psychonutrition and a whole new way of regulating the human body through your thoughts. And I worked in every level of addiction treatment. And the big, huge gap of service that I found was in the discharge process when you're sending people back home. You take somebody who's been drinking for the last, 10, 20, 30 years, and you send them back to the same house, spouse, kids, bills, job. Somebody has to be there to teach them how to use the tools in their life. And so it's a huge gap. So I did that. And, throughout that whole first 5 years of being in practice, people started coming, hey, I don't have an addiction, but I wonder if you could help me. I need everything that you're teaching, right? I was referred to you by. And so we really just dove in and started leaning into the fact that we all need to learn how to live for ourselves first without feeling guilty, selfish, punished, or restricted. And so teaching people that locus of control, what it means and where their sweet spot is, so they aren't reliant upon something outside of them for their validity.
Yeah. And how many years into your marriage did you go into for that help and try and reset that?
I'm going to say about midway, because I've been in practice now just about 12 years.
What were some
about midway? It was empty nest. So the empty nest hit me really hard.
Okay.
And so if I'm to highlight when the generalized anxiety disorder came, so I had a full hysterectomy at 29, which then changed my whole hormonal makeup.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll put you in menopause. Right? Everything, won't it?
Yeah. And so it changed my hormonal makeup. And then, the kids growing up and moving out was really difficult. And our oldest daughter is a cancer survivor. So there was a lot of, attachment around raising the kids and my worth. I've been a parent since I was 16. Yeah. Some of my near-death experience is part of why.
When you say your near-death experience, what was that, and how old were you when you got married?
I was 30 when I got married.
Oh, okay. We
got married on
you
my
started
30th
having kids at 16. Okay.
Yeah, so we're a blended family.
I'm just trying to paint a picture of your journey
Yeah.
and how, some of the experiences that shaped your childhood, they changed your life. And a lot of people have been through that. So they're going through it. How did you know when it was time to get help? Because if someone's out there in the audience listening right now, and they're like, yeah, I drink a little bit too much.
When I couldn't not. When I couldn't not, meaning when I couldn't not take a Xanax in the morning to regulate my anxiety, when I couldn't not, manage shakes or, an uneasy feeling.
Going through withdrawals.
Without alcohol. And if you study the physiological effects, it was a quiet journey over a course of a 5-year period after introducing the Xanax that really exacerbated the physiological addiction. And so it was almost unnoticeable until it was just boom, loud as loud.
Did you find that maybe the quietness and clarity that you get from an empty nest, where suddenly, there's probably, being a mom and there's a lot of, or parent, there's a lot of things that keep you, there's a lot of busy work. You're constantly being attentive to the children, and then they're gone and you're kind of left just looking at yourself in the mirror. Maybe did you find that sort of, not having a full schedule gave you a chance to be more contemplative?
Yeah, I just had no idea what my purpose for living was.
Oh, wow.
When I say, I was an adolescent parent, like my physical body told me that it was time to have a child at 17 or 16. And it was right. I lost 2 after him. And then I almost lost my life because of the severity of endometriosis and chronic cysts that were happening inside of my body. So, in fact, my husband took me to the hospital frequently, almost on a weekly basis because I was, having some sort of a scare or another. And so my body was attacking itself. And so autoimmune disease has been something I've battled for a lot of years.
Wow.
And so through psychonutrition, I've had the ability to remove 4 autoimmune diseases from my body. Yeah.
Do you think the alcohol and the pills maybe exacerbated that? I bring that
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Coping with you and their, I used alcohol as a crutch for 20 years. I didn't have an addiction. I want to make that clear because it's really important to know the addiction, but I've used it and I did it because for a lot of it was a fuel for me. So I was so stressed out that with anxiety, OCD, ADHD, and running businesses that it would cool me out. And if you relax me, I could do more work in a day. Sometimes at the end of the night, it was usually the night I'd pour one out and I could kind of get that sugar rush from the alcohol. And so it became like a juice. I used to run the machine, I used to call it. And I knew that if I ever woke up drinking, that would be a problem. But usually at night I'd put one on and get a couple extra hours of work or fun or, gaming, whatever. And a lot of people use it to crush. Now you use the term psychonutrition. Tell us what that means specifically and how it's different than just normal nutrition.
It's connecting all of the dots.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at our gut, heart, brain axis, they're all connected. Mm-hmm. And if they're not all functioning, right, then our organic being isn't going to function well. The very first brain that develops is our heart brain. Mm. If we look at, in conception, right? Mm-hmm. So our heart brain is first. And so when we have a lot of stress, everybody knows, right? We've got the oxidative stress and we've got the cortisol dumps and all of these things. It can, when people come to me complaining of, brain fog, fatigue, and they get into these deep, what I call depressive states and or anxiety. And we start looking at what are you fueling your body with? Like this is the only vessel we will ever have. It's 100% guaranteed. So I like to use this analogy. So if when you turn 16, you are given a car and you are told this is literally the only vehicle you are allowed to ever have your whole life. So if you don't, like it's up to you if you want to have it until the day you die. So you're not going to put latex paint in the gas tank. You're not going to put sugar in the brake fluid. You're not going to put, right? Like you're going to probably make sure that the tires are rotated and all the things so that it continues to run. But yet we put garbage in our body and expect it to function well. Now, to all of you people out there that are saying, I eat totally healthy, I get it. I ate really healthy also. The problem is that even some of those foods didn't serve me. So if I to give you an illustration, nightshades. So things like onion, tomatoes, peppers. I'm Sicilian, right? So garlic and onion, like I ate that, and tomatoes. I ate that a lot. Not necessarily unhealthy, but bad for me.
Oh, really?
They cause nothing but inflammation inside my body. I spent a solid year investigating which foods caused me inflammation, which foods caused me to slow down, which foods caused gastrointestinal issues, which, all the things. Yeah. So just because you're making healthy choices doesn't mean that they're actually right for your physical engine, right? For your engine. And so that I don't subscribe to a diet. I don't recommend a diet specific. I recommend a journey of getting to know which type of fuel serves you so that you function at the highest optimal for yourself. And I mean mind, body, spirit. So that whole gut, heart, brain access.
Years ago, I quit drinking 10 to 15 Mountain Dews a day. Years later, I quit drinking vodka. I quit drinking because I could feel that a few hours of fun on Friday night would make my body just drag energy-wise, but make me bloat. I'd store all sorts of water as my body's way of trying to overcompensate for, you're dehydrated now. You did your little party there, buddy. And, then it would just flood my system with water. And then the next couple of days would be getting rid of that water. And I would just be on this roller coaster of just abuse my body for a couple hours with alcohol, come back. And at 50, my body was like, we're not doing this with you anymore. It's been fun. And you're stupid, and you did a bunch of stupid stuff and alcohol. But we're not doing this anymore. If you want to drink a couple nights, we're going to make 3 days of hell for you. And did a really good job convincing me in that way, because pain has a way of doing that. And, I reached a point where I'm just like, I'm not doing this. The same thing with food. I quit. I got tired of being 100 plus pounds overweight, and I started intermittent fasting. I started paying attention to what I put in my pie hole. If it's in your house, it's in your mouth. You go to the store, you order the stuff. I started eating clean and healthy. I don't, as a pseudo vegetarian, let's put it that way, where I was making sure in eating healthy live foods as opposed to dead foods, as they call it, going produce, all that sort of stuff, and little to no processed foods, basically. And boy, it changed my world. It changed my gut health. It changed how I felt, how I went through life. I had more energy. I don't feel, I don't get that crash that you get when you eat garbage food, and then you have that sugar crash and all that sort of good stuff. And it's made a whole difference in the quality of my life by just what I'm eating and putting in the pie hole mouth, that won't shut up. Yeah, it's made a difference in my life. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
You said some extremely valid things there, about that cycle. And I think it's worth coming back to, and, maybe it looks different for some. But, if I always tell people, hey, if you're going to go out on Friday, right, and wreck yourself all weekend, or just do it knowing what you're signing up for. And, when we go on these, alcohol we'll call them benders, whatever. It doesn't mean you have it, whether it's a crutch or if it's just, hey, I'm going on a vacation. You have to know that you're signing up for 3 to 4 days of anxiety and depressive states. And that's just on a physiological level, like the anxiety and depressive states. So I want anybody that's listening, right? Observe yourself Monday through Thursday. Like, how do you feel? What is your attitude? What is your demeanor? Are you low? Are you brain foggy? Are you edgy? Are you quick to snip and snap at people, et cetera, et cetera? And then you get to that Thursday or Friday when it's okay to go to happy hour. And suddenly it's, oh, yeah. And then it's that same perpetual thing over and over again. That's not saying you're an addict, an alcoholic, and anything like that. It's to say that this is what your physical body is telling you.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, gosh, like, I don't want to take your wine away from you. I don't want to take your beer away from you if you don't need it to be. Mm-hmm. Cool deal. If you want to have a glass of wine on Thursday because it pairs well with your steak, sweet, do that. Mm-hmm. Take the emotional purpose away from it. So because it pairs with the steak, when your steak is gone, the glass of wine will be gone and you don't need it anymore because you're not looking for an emotional change or an attitude adjustment that is really going to backfire on you, because at the backside of that equals anxiety and depressive states. And I'm not talking depression, I'm just depressive states. Nobody wakes up going, hey, I feel better than I did yesterday and I drank a 12-pack.
Let's get a plug-in for your app. How does that work? How do you utilize it? What platforms is it available, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Total Emotional Performance, the app, is a brand new space that is already underway and highly functional. It is under Spaces by Wix. We have not taken it to the App Store yet, but you can definitely get on by visiting triciaparido.com. And in there, there's several different levels you can choose from. But I always tell people, just start at the very free basic and come in and do a coping audit, do a habit audit, do an emotional agility quiz. Listen to the playlist that I put there for the emotional agility playlist for high achievers, and see how it resonates with you before even thinking about anything else. But you can just chat with me. It's all here. We are creating a crossover so that some of it is on desktop and hopefully most of it will be interchangeable from desktop to app. But, development is awesome. But, I'm really excited about having this space where, we can go into emotional agility training versus just sitting around talking about it or reading about it.
Mm-hmm. And you help people with that. How can people onboard with you? How can they reach out to you? I notice there's several prompts and offers you have on your website. Walk us through those and tell us how people can utilize those. I see there's a beta program, exclusive access.
That was actually last month. It actually just ended this week, at the beginning of the week. Mm-hmm. So this is what I say all the time, Chris, because I haven't met you yet. And I'm a pretty moral, ethical being, right? Like, I don't want anybody to just sign up for a program and spend money. I always just say, book a consultation with me. I love having conversations and chats with 12 years of clinical experience. I'd love to just sit and hear what your aspirations are, what's missing from your life, what you think you desire. And hey, if we can take a journey together, great. And if not, I might be able to help you find the actual answer. So the best thing to do is just to jump on my calendar.
Mm-hmm. And they can do that by pressing the buttons on your website, checking all those wares out and all that good stuff. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to tease out to people to have them get to know you better and get to know you more in your services?
I honestly just want people to realize, that sometimes, we just gotta, walk away from the hopes that meditation and manifestation are going to serve us. It's great to have those things in our lives, but we've got to create our own strategy and our own system that is uniquely made for us as individual beings. We can't say, hey, I want to do it this way because it worked for somebody else. So you've got to find your own unique. And that's the gift that I have, is having that ability to help people create something that is truly unique just for them, so that they can, experience living the way they want to. I really don't have any other plugs. I don't know. I'm not a very good salesperson. I'm not going to sell myself on to people. I'm an acquired taste, and I'm a no fluff kind of person, but I'm also very kind and giving in the work that I do.
It's good to have that sampling because, guiding through people through some of these issues, if they're out there dealing with their stuff as well, it's good to be able to do this, and you're helping people fix it. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, Tricia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks, for tuning in. Oh, give us your .coms one last time as we go out, if you would, please.
It's Tricia Parido, TriciaParido.com.
Thank you, Tricia, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Thanks, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss one, the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. And that should have